What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Fight Out podcast. If you're new here, my name's Elliot. On this channel, we break down the fight game, the mindset of fighters. We do prediction shows. We talk everything that's going on, particularly in MMA, particularly in the UFC, with some other videos as well. If you like that style of content, give us a subscribe, give us a like, comment down below if you'd agree with my views. If you're a viewer, welcome back. Appreciate it more than you know. And without further ado, let's get into it. So, after this weekend's UFC 330, Islam Makhachev fought Ian Garry, won via unanimous decision. 3-2, 4-1 was kind of the gist of it. Very interesting fight for me, and we're going to be breaking down Islam Makhachev. And to be honest, I don't think he's ever looked more beatable. He arguably looks at the wrong weight class, in my opinion. Agree with me, disagree with me, let me know down below if that is the case. Now, obviously, he fought Ian Garry the weekend, fought him on Saturday. I watched it early Sunday morning. I actually didn't see the results, but I seen something that Dana said before it, so I kind of got the idea that Islam had won, basically. So, long story short, I didn't watch it live. I watched it Sunday morning about 6:30, but I actually went onto Twitter or X, and the top result was Dana saying if Ian even had an ounce of killer instinct, and that was all I seen, but I kind of deducted that Islam won the fight. Now, when I was watching the fight, in the first couple of rounds, for me, I felt like Islam was sort of doing what I expected him to, but I felt like he was struggling to deal with the size of Ian. He couldn't hold him down. It was a different type of fight from Islam. And for me, in round 2, when he got the head kick knockdown, he actually looked a little bit rushed. I'm going to play the video in just a sec, but he almost rushes in to try and finish Ian at that point. And in my personal opinion, that was because he kind of realised, shit, Ian's a big guy, I'm actually struggling here to get him down, to hold him down the same way that I did with the lightweights.
Massive head kick from Makhachev!
That was absolutely huge. Ian's still stunned.
Makhachev closing the distance. Lands a combination.
Now, if you watch that video, you might disagree with me, but you can't argue that Islam rushed in. And Islam, for me, has always been a kind of cool, calm, collected finisher. I know everyone tries to jump on the finish and get them out there, and you might be saying, nah, you're looking into it too much. But for me, I felt like that fight was almost a little bit indicative of Islam thinking, okay, I'm actually struggling here with this bigger man, the bigger weight, and he's got some big tests ahead of him at 170. As the fight went on, round 3, I thought Ian looked very good. Definitely won that round for me. I actually think that Ian also won round 4. Now, I've seen arguments the other way, and obviously two of the judges, I believe, give Islam round 4, which, like I said, I personally don't agree with. I'm not going to die on the hill of arguing that one because it was a close-ish round. But for me, going into that 5th round, Ian was the fresher fighter. Ian was the stronger fighter. And as I said, because I seen Dana's tweet before the card, I actually started to think at that point, does Ian win via decision? And Dana was going to say if he had an ounce of killer instinct, he could have finished Islam. Started to doubt myself a little bit, but then ultimately, the result went the way it went. Now, in round 5, up until, 2 minutes into round 5, I had Ian Garry as world champion. I had him winning the fight 3-2 up until that point, because like I said, I had him winning round 3. I also had him winning round 4. I didn't score round 2 at 10-8. Now with the knockdown, again, that's up for debate. For me, it just weren't quite a domination like Khabib Conor round 2. It weren't quite that for me, but it could, you could argue that it was at 10-8 basically. Then Islam obviously got on top of Ian, took him down, and held him down then for the rest of the round. There was some kind of submission attempts, some attempts at ground and pounds from the bottom with Ian's back on top of him. But even the takedown, I'm going to play the clip now, it didn't look like a typical Islam Makhachev performance where he's comfortable in there and he's confident and he's steamrolling. The takedown almost looked a little bit rushed.
Pretty good.
Big shot. Got that he doubled that off quick. Back up to his feet quickly.
Like I said at the start, I think you could argue that Islam right now is more beatable than he has ever been inside the UFC. And that's not because Islam is any less skilled or he's on the downside of his career or anything like that. That could be a part, it's not in my opinion. I just think he's fighting at the wrong weight. Now I know he was struggling to get down to 55, but he's gone up to 70. And he was a big 55er, but he doesn't look like a big 170 fighter. The two fights that are in front of him, Carlos Prates and Michael Morales, are two big dudes. Morales in particular. And Ian was a big guy, you know, he's not as thick as Islam, he's not as broad, he's not as, you know, muscle density as Islam Makhachev, but he's big, he's long, he's rangy, and he is naturally a bigger man. Islam is a big 55er, and a lot of his success at 55 is almost bullying people. In my opinion, he didn't have the biggest matchups at 55, you know, like in terms of skill versus skill. There was a lot left for him to do. I didn't personally want him to move up, but hey ho, here we are. But there must be a part of Islam that is thinking, have I made a mistake in moving up to 170 and trying it at this weight class? Now you're probably all sitting there thinking, he won, what are you talking about? You've even just said that he won. I'm not trying to dispute that. I'm not trying to make out like he and Garry should have won the fight. I just think it's a different Islam Makhachev at 170 in comparison to 155, and I don't think it's good. I think he's a different animal at 55, and the puzzle, you know, whatever you want to call it, it seems a little bit easier to solve at 170 in my opinion. Even Islam in his post-fight press conference said he needs to bulk up a little bit more. He wants to put on a bit more size and be a bit bigger at 170, which he might look different if he does that, but surely if he puts on more size, he's going to be a little bit slower. Now, he's not a crazy, fast-paced fighter by any means anyway, but a little bit of a slower Islam, easier to catch. Again, it could cause problems at 70, especially against the Carlos Prates and Michael Morales, Shavkat when he comes back, an Ian Garry rematch. For as much as everyone dislikes him, and even after the fight when he was talking in the locker room, you know, he's not my cup of tea. You can't argue it was a close fight. If he then fights Islam again with all of that data he has from the first time, and he starts a little bit quicker, look like Ian Garry started slow to me. All of a sudden, Islam won't have a 2-0 round advantage going into the third round, and then Ian wins the third round, by the way, off the worst round of his career. It was just a weird performance for Islam. It weird the old school dominating Islam. I think he's beatable at 170. He slowed down a lot, particularly in round 4. He definitely looked a lot slower. Same way Khabib did versus Conor. And that fight was actually very similar when you think about it. Khabib came out in round 1, kind of grinded it out, eventually got the takedown, you won. Round 2 for Khabib was definitely at 10-8. You know, he knocked Conor down, he dominated him, he slammed him back down. I don't think the Islam round was at 10-8, but he got the knockdown, same way Khabib did. And he won that round. Round 3, Conor actually wins and Ian Garry wins. You know, they kind of come back into it. And then round 4, obviously Conor got subbed. Islam did put up a sub attempt in round 4, but Ian Garry was just able to weather that storm a little bit. The fight was very, very similar. It's just Ian Garry managed to grind through it. And actually, in my opinion, take round 4 as well. 2 minutes into round 5, like I said, I had Ian Garry as world champion, and I didn't know what had gone on because of the kind of start of Dana's tweet that I'd seen. But for me, he's just nowhere near as dominant at 170. Now, have I got the appetite for him to go back down? I think he definitely is too big now. The point of this video, I suppose, is to ask the question, has Islam made a mistake, and is Islam now probably doubting his decision to move up to 170? I think he would be. I think it'd be very interesting to talk to Islam Makhachev if he's being honest. And maybe after his career, he'll do the interview where he say, at that point, after that Ian Garry fight where you haven't doubts about whether you made the right decision moving up to 170. And again, I know that he won. I just think if he'd have stayed at 55, he'd have probably beat everyone. You know, the earlier fight was the most interesting. But now at 170, there's a lot of challenges in the next sort of realm of his career that's going to tell us a lot about Islam Makhachev. He said he wants to stick around for at least 3 more to go to, you know, a 20 fight win streak in the UFC. Wouldn't surprise me if he only done the 1, you know, because if this next fight doesn't go kind of as easy as he wanted to, he's got all the money that he needs. He's still, you know, dual weight world champion. He's still in the GOAT conversation. That might be enough for him. He's actually got the record now that he wanted as well with the most wins. You know, obviously Anderson Silva's record. I think it's a very interesting comparison now with Islam and Khabib, because I've seen a lot of discord before the fight of, you know, if Islam was undefeated, would people argue that he is the GOAT over Khabib, over John Jones? And there was a lot of talk of, yeah, he would. I've always felt that Islam is the better fighter than Khabib, but I've always felt like Khabib's mindset was far superior to Islam's. I feel like Islam, without knowing him, without ever spoken to him, just judging off his body language and stuff in fights, I feel like Islam doubts himself. There's a blueprint out there now, isn't he? There's video evidence on how to actually take rounds off Islam Makhachev and how to potentially beat Islam Makhachev. There was anyway with Volk at 55, but now just focusing on 170, which is obviously the purpose of this video. Garry has got an example there of 2.5 rounds of him beating Islam Makhachev, in my opinion. Now, if you can sustain that, or if you can start the fight like that, does Islam fade a lot quicker? Because he was definitely fading in round 4 and in round 5 up until the point when he got the takedown. And then when he got the takedown, I don't think he was ever going to let Garry back up, because he knew at that point, yeah, if I sit on top of him here, well, he actually ended up on the bottom, but you know what I mean? If I hold him down here, I'm going to win this fight, because this will give me this round. And at the least, you know, I'll probably win 3-2. And I think that was his mindset. And he said something similar about the JDM fight. He said that he didn't take risk. You know, he was just set on winning that and winning that second belt. And I do feel a little bit in that last round, he'd done the same thing with Garry, where he thought, I don't want to lose this belt. You know, I want this win record. If I hold him now, if I keep him down, I win this fight. And that's basically what he done. There was a couple of submission attempts, sort of half-arsed, if you will. A little bit of ground and pound from the bottom as well, but nothing too serious. And yeah, I think Islam Makhachev made a mistake moving to 170. I think Islam Makhachev is beatable at 170. And I think there's a high chance that in his next 2 fights, we actually do see him get beat.